Undo Cherry Blossom Festival. I'm a big fan of games that tell stories. In fact, they may just be my favorite kind of game. Either because we're talking about games with strong individual characters or historical war games that show me a series of events that this way I get to explore in an immersive way. I love games that tell stories. I was at Gen Con 2019. I was walking by this big stack of Undo games. There are 3 titles in the system, and the guy that was there at the booth told me that these games are all about the story, entirely about the story. Basically, each is a deck of cards that will tell you different bits and pieces of a story that they're trying to put together. I knew I had to try it, so I picked up all 3 titles in the Undo series, also because they told me if you buy 2 you get the 3rd one for free, and how can I resist that? I'm not made of iron. So this is the first one that I tried, the Cherry Blossom Festival. All the Undo games have the same idea behind them, which is you are a time traveler. You start by becoming aware of a tragedy that happened, somebody died, and you travel back and forth in time trying to figure out what happened, what led to that death, and you're trying to make decisions that will increase the chances that the person on the cover actually will not die. You're kind of trying to mess with past. All of those sci-fi movies about the time cops, don't mess with the continuum, they don't matter. They don't matter anymore. So, how do we do this? The game is basically a card game, and this is how the game looks like after you set it up. Also kind of tricky. When you open the box, there's a stack of cards and you're told, don't worry, this game doesn't have any game manual. Alright, like no rules? All the rules are printed on cards, so that's kind of like, feels like cheating. There is a game manual, it's just printed on the cards. You have a set of 13 number location cards. They represent different places, but they also represent different times. The one that you see there in red represents the time and place of the death of the person that we're trying to save. For example, here we are in Okayama, Japan, March 1st, year 2000, at 1927. At the beginning of the game, we would turn that card face up and start reading, and from there, then we are on our own. We need to decide where to go next. Under each location, there is a clue card. They're not randomly placed, they are matched by numbers. So basically, is something extra that you can learn about that location and that time and that situation if you decide to read the clue. Which is not automatic. You have a limited number of clue cards. Each time that you read a clue, you discard one, and once you're done with those, well, you're done with those. You also have a limited number of time cards. Each time to travel to a location, which means you flip the location face up, you discard one. When you are done, when you don't have any of those to discard anymore, the game is over. At that point, you may decide to reach the end of the game, by which I mean that you evaluate how you did, or you decide that you didn't really get a sense of what was happening and you try again from the beginning. Evaluating means that you see if your actions have an impact, if they increase the chances that the guy will not die. How do you do so? Each card, I'm not showing you those because that would be a spoiler. Each card will have a description of something that happens in that place and at that time. So like here, etc. You flip it, you read a description of what happens. It may have to do with the deceased, it may have to do with other people. You read something that seems to be related to that person, and you try to reconstruct the story, how these events will lead to what we know happened. Then each card will give you 3 options of things that you can do. And so you will have option A, option B, and option C. Maybe I'm gonna make up an example completely that doesn't give you a spoiler. Or maybe not. Basically, there are these 3 options, and for each card you have a set of 3 small cards, A, B, or C, each corresponding to option A, option B, and option C. Basically, after you read, you decide what you want to do, trying to influence the past, and say, I decide that after reading that card, I want to perform option B. Then I am at card 7. I look at card 7B, which I cannot show you, because it will have a number. Can be a 0, can be a positive number, can be a negative number. -1, +2, 0, who knows what it is. But I know that if I found a 0, it means that my selection did not alter the chances of this dude here, that this dude would die. If I find a positive number, I decrease the chance that it will die. If I find a negative number, actually I'm such a bad time-traveling savior that with a negative number, I am decreasing his chances of surviving or reducing my chances of saving him. What happens is that after I make the decision, I collect the cards. Suppose a 7B, I will look at it, but I'm not showing you what it is, and I put it here in a pile. And later I decide that I want to travel to this location here, which is 9. I discard another time card. I look at the card, I read, I decided I want to know more about the suit. I discard a clue, I also read that one. And then again, I'll be faced with 3 possibilities. And then I look for the cards 9. And again, suppose this time I select C, I look at it, and I put it in a stack. Basically, as the game progresses, you will have a stack of cards that you're forming, recording the actions that you took. And so you'll have maybe a card saying +1, 0, 0, -2, etc., etc., etc. At the end of the game, when you're done with when you finish your time cards, you will pretty much put together all the numbers, positives and negatives and the zeros, and you'll see what your final result is. Even without getting in details, you know that if your total is 0, this happens. If your total is negative, this happens too, and maybe even worse. If the total is positive and it's a good positive number, maybe you averted the tragedy. And if you understood what's going on as the story was progressing, as the story revealed itself to the cards, of course you also have better chances of making the right choices, although sometimes, well, that is not the case. Sometimes a clue or description will give you a good clue, a good indication of where you should go next. Other times, the clue and the card are their own thing, and after that, it's just like shooting in the dark. You have to go to a random place because there are many cards that do not organically or naturally lead you to another specific time and place. This is in general how you play Undo. Travel through time, make decisions that will allow you to collect cards at the end based on the numerical factor of what you have of the total. I'll show you this one without showing exactly what they correspond to. At the end, you total all of the numbers from the cards that you collected, and the total tells you how well or poorly you did. I love games that tell stories. I spent a lot of time playing them, thinking about them. I mean, I even wrote a book about this style of game. That tells you how committed I am to them. And one of the things that makes a game that tells a story particularly compelling is when it has a balance between randomness and structure. You need to have some randomness, you need to have some multiple outcomes, otherwise it's not a game with a story. It is a straightforward linear story that the system is telling you, like a TV show or a comic book or a novel. However, if it's not a randomness, well, then there is no sense of structure, and structure is one of the defining elements of narrative. Otherwise, you just have content which is listed one bit after the other, like in a phone book or in a menu. It's a system of organized content, but does not tell you a story. Think of a game book, there is randomness, maybe random events tables, maybe you roll for combat, you don't know exactly where you're going, but if randomness is all you have, the game book feels too chaotic. And that introduction is necessary to explain Why? I like a lot the idea behind undo, and I did not care for the execution at all. I should say I like the idea behind undo the system. I did not like this implementation. Maybe other titles under the system are excellent and they do have the balance between randomness and structure. This one feels entirely random. Meaning, the first location, I don't know if it's a spoiler, the first location contains some clues, some elements there that to give you a sense of where you should go next. Where among the possible locations there might be something useful. You go there and you see a connection. Oh, this is the kind of thing that I thought to find there, that I hope to find there. And then you read the description there, you learn something more about the past of the deceased, and that's it. From that moment on, you don't have anything that will lead you to something else. Or if there are clues there, there are hints, they are so subtle, they are so hard to get that for the rest of the game, I didn't get a single one. So what happened is that at that point, I started flipping cards kind of randomly because each card gave me a little bit of a biography of this person or people related to him without telling me if traveling to 1940 or 1970 meant something, if there was something there that could be more interesting. So what happened at that point is that I felt like I was just zapping from channel to channel or being fed random bits of a TV show, and I was trying to figure out the story from those bits. So like a very heavily inebriated person had edited one of those, the story so far, compilations of segments you see before a TV show. Previously, yeah, but again, they chose completely random elements. And that is the entire complaint that I have about this game, but that is enough to completely ruin the experience for me. Because again, I'm just seeing these bits and pieces. Then I'm also been asked to make decisions with those three choices, A, B, or C, about situations that I don't understand, which is fine if it's the result of my making a mistake, but it feels unfair because I landed on a random place, which gives me in a position that I don't understand, and I'm asked to make a decision about something. I'm required to make a decision about something that I don't understand. Then I'll just go randomly and go by following my gut, which is a fancy word for randomly. And then I also, incidentally, did pretty well, but I felt no satisfaction because the score to me came randomly. If the game is too random, even if I win, then I don't feel that that was the result of my choices and I don't have that satisfaction. So big disappointment because early on, the story was interesting, the situation was interesting. I felt that figuring out certain things paid off, and I thought, oh, this is going to be like a smaller, more portable, less complicated, less long to set up time story type of situation, maybe less demanding Sherlock Holmes consulting detective or Chronicles of Crime. I thought this game would go in this line of games that I like very much, but alas, it was not going to be so. At least for the Cherry Blossom Festival. I have the two games in the line and I'll try them at some point if I find the time, I guess, and the motivation. And when/if I do, I'll report in one of my videos. For now, what I want to tell you is that Undo Cherry Blossom Festival relies on an idea that seems incredibly promising, but to me, this game specifically has not kept the promise.